Welcome to Aging on the Suncoast. I'm your host, Jason Martino. At the end of 2014, the Meals on Wheels Association of America reports nearly 14% of seniors living in the state of Florida are threatened by malnutrition and hunger. Many factors contribute to this problem. Limited income and a lack of transportation are the largest contributors. On today's show, we'll learn more about the importance of good nutrition. We'll also talk about programs within Pasco and Pinellas counties that help seniors acquire better nutrition. I'm excited to have with us Peggy Coleman, the licensed dietitian with the Neighborly Care Network Nutrition Program, and Diane Cunningham, the assistant director with the Pasco County Elderly Nutrition Program. Ladies, welcome to Aging on the Suncoast.
Thank you, Jason.
No problem. As an area agency on aging, we use a lot of jargon out there. When it comes to Older Americans Act and targeting out there, we use the terms such as at-risk, vulnerable populations, and one that circulates in the last year or so speaks to what they call food insecurity. Can you help our audience understand a little bit about what food insecurity is?
Sure, I'd love to. Food insecurity is when someone doesn't have access to adequate amounts of food that is nutritious and healthy for them to maintain a good lifestyle, and especially for the older person to help them maintain the proper diet. And that access could be just they don't live near a store to go get the food, or they don't have enough money to have the food. So food insecurity can range anywhere from, at times during the month when the Social Security comes into them, that they do have enough money to buy the food and can get it, but at times during the month they don't have the money, all the way to pure famine. And so it is a huge, broad term to talk about not having access to food.
Yeah, and it sounds very much like access is the critical piece in that,
Yes,
when that person does not have access to
absolutely.
that. Yeah. And as agencies in our community, we serve Pasco and Pinellas counties. Is there a high prevalence of people that are food insecure within the counties?
Yes, in Pinellas County, it's at least 9% that are food insecure. And there's other things that also enter into that. You have to be culturally appropriate for the person, because say like you had a devout Jew or Muslim person, their corner drugstore or food store they go to may not have the foods that they eat for them. So even though you might have access to some of the food, it's not food that you're going to take in for different reasons for that. So the prevalence is very high. It's high for a lot of reasons, like Diane said, but at least 9% of the people in Pinellas are food insecure, of the seniors.
Wow.
It's high.
That's unfortunate. And with Pasco County, that has 33% roughly with seniors that live in there. Is food insecurity a high prevalence as well?
Yes, it is. The statistic is similar to Pinellas. It's about 9%. Those are the people that fall at or below the poverty level. And of those people, there's about 1 in 7 seniors of that group who fall at or below poverty level, who are food. They may not know where their next meal may come from.
That's a shame.
It is.
Yeah, and that's something we're going to talk a little bit about today, how we can possibly mitigate that piece of it as well.
Yes.
So why do we have food insecurity? What are the factors that are out there that cause one to be food insecure? Peggy?
Okay, like Diane was saying, the lack of access to food, and that can be you don't have enough money to buy the food, but you may have enough money to buy the food, but you don't have the transportation to get to the food. In Pinellas County, we do have public transportation, but it's not the best public transportation. And if you have to go to the store, you're an older, frail person, you're carrying 2 large bags of groceries, and you have to walk several blocks to get home. It's frozen food, you're waiting on the bus with frozen foods. There's a lot of our seniors have chronic diseases, and that impacts what they need to eat and how they should eat. The foods that we get from the food banks are not necessarily foods that they should be eating. They may have food on the shelf, but it's not what they need. Medicines, you know, you're making the choice a lot of times between buying a medicine or buying groceries. You know, different things like that impact it.
Yikes.
And their ability to intake food too is like Diane, dentation affects all of that.
Right.
The medicines you take, does it make you feel full? Does it make you feel nauseous? Does it make the food taste like nothing there, so there's just no interest in eating? Things like that impact it.
And I think it's nothing new that when we're talking about adequate access, we're definitely talking about the income for those folks, and
Yes.
we're also talking about transportation. I
Right.
think with all the money in the world, we wouldn't be able to provide people that adequate transportation to all the different destinations that they want to go to. But more importantly, the destination of getting that good resource of nutrition in there, that's really it's quite a problem. Anything to add about Pasco County?
Yeah, I was going to say that we find a lot of people who are severely depressed or mentally incompetent due to dementia, Alzheimer's disease. Those people will fall into that category because they don't have the wherewithal to go out and get their food. It's not, maybe they have the money, they just, because of depression, they have this, oh, I just want to just leave me alone, I want to stay here. And so they don't have the drive, the motivation to go out and get themselves food.
Sounds like they just need some help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throughout the United States and some media that we see in the state of Florida, we hear a lot about good nutrition for young folks, babies and toddlers, the right amount of nutrients to get for that. But we don't hear a whole lot about good nutrition for seniors. Would anyone like to expound upon what that means? Are there special considerations that seniors need when it comes to nutrition?
Definitely. As we age, we metabolize food differently. For seniors, you need more calcium than any other age group except growing children and lactating mothers. That's one of the major nutrients our seniors lack, is the calcium in the food. We need a lot more vitamin D, and the B vitamins are very important, and that's often lacking in the senior's diet. So if you have not adequate food intake, you have a chronic disease, and with the lack of food intake comes the lack of intake for the nutrients you need, higher risk, of getting iller and sicker and everything like that.
Yeah.
And they're satiated easier, so they don't eat as much, so they don't get the nutrients in. Cheaper food is easier to eat and it's affordable. A box of macaroni and cheese versus a can of tuna fish. But the tuna fish is a better choice for you, but because they're so limited, even in how they prepare things, so frequently buy the easy to fix things, the can of tomato soup, lacking in most nutrients. Some nutrients are there, but it's not very nutritious for them.
Yeah.
And to plan a diet, they're just not into planning meals.
Right.
Oh, what's easy? I don't know, toast, soup, TV dinner, if they get it.
And how about those folks out there that have chronic diseases?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some specialty to those diets that
Right.
we hope that one maintains as well, and without access to the certain types of foods they need.
Right.
Any examples of?
Well, especially people who are, say, have heart problems or are diabetics, there are special foods that they have to eat and other foods they have to avoid. And due to being low income, they can't afford to buy those special diets.
Right.
And it's very hard. I mean, some of the foods that are less in sodium are more expensive, as Peggy said. So it's because of the expense of being on a special diet that they're unable to do that.
Yeah.
And if you go to a food pantry, the food pantries are trying and struggling to fill the gap that's there, but they give out a lot of canned food because that's what is donated to them. They are trying to get more fruits and vegetables, but that's on a hit and miss as it comes in status. So these people, the food they're getting is not the most nutritious for their chronic disease, but it's what they have.
And I think what we're seeing around the state of Florida is also a shortage of food pantries out there, and that thereby is not helpful when it's people are trying to access that type of resource as well. So I think we learned that on the food pantry that they're doing their best to make sure that people aren't hungry, but sometimes when we have seniors with specialized diets, they're not able to specifically provide adequate nutrients that person might need. Are there any kind of cultural sensitivities out there that we should know about?
I think so. In our area, we have a lot of Hispanic people.
Right.
We have a lot of Asian people. This is Pinellas County, again, I'm talking about. And they do eat differently than mainstream America, as you would call it. And while some of them become acclimated to our food, they still don't prefer it. Some food is better than no food, but they would prefer to eat what they know and they're brought up with. And they like, certain taste buds. And, we in our program try and recognize that, but again, we're limited in the diversity that we offer to people.
Well, let's talk about your program a little bit too. The Older Americans Act, as we know, came out in 1965, and one of the major tenets of that was to provide better nutrition to people living in the United States and its territories. And so hence it created the home-delivered meal program.
Yep.
And I think the congregate meal came a little bit closer, but you too operate home-delivered meals and congregate meals and senior nutrition in both Pinellas and Pasco County. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about those programs. Diane?
Yeah, the congregate meal program is for those that are a little bit more mobile and they have ability to get outside their home. Either they have their own car or they live close by to a nutrition center, or they get a ride from a friend, or they take public transportation or paratransit. And those meals are the same meals that we serve for home delivery. But they are well-balanced meals. They do meet the 1/3 of the RDA, and we portion them out exactly so that if they ate everything on their plate, they can go away saying, I've had my 1/3 for today. So yeah, that's the congregate program. Maybe you'd like to describe the home delivery.
Okay, it's probably very similar. The meals are the same for home delivered or congregate dining. We dispense them from takeout places. We call them sites in my area. And the volunteers will come to the site, and we can have any place between 8 to 16 routes that people pick up at a site. It's an entire meal that people get too. It's a hot component and a cold component. Always contains milk, that D and calcium that I was talking about, so they're going to get that. The volunteers will take it out to the clients on their route. They have a few minutes of socialization with them. Like, it's more than a meal. It's, you know, we're visiting with you. How are you doing?
Right. It's a check on their welfare too.
You know, everything is okay, and it is a very nutritious meal. The one thing that's sad about it is that the statistics show that most seniors, even though we're saying it's 1/3 of your DRI, they're using it for 1/2 of their daily intake.
Yes.
You know? And it's great. The Meals on Wheels folks, they develop rapport with their clients, and they do that check on them, and they get to know them, and they'll do little special things like say happy birthday to them when it's their birthday and stuff like that.
That's fantastic. And when we say RDI, we're talking about the registered dietary intake, correct?
Right.
And you're able to provide 1/3 of that for people. That's one meal a day. So there's a lot of other things out there that we hope to provide, but we, you know, with funding and constraints like that, we do the best that we can. Tell us about some other programs that fall under your Older Americans Act programs.
Well, we also have funding to provide nutrition education for our clients, and that is nutrition information. It's usually packets or materials or newsletters that we give to each client who's receiving our services that tells them about anything from special diets to how to eat, how to cook meals during the summer, quick, easy meals when you're hot. How to eat less expensively if you're on a fixed income, how to eat meals with less salt, with less sugar, with less carbs, all of that. So that information is very helpful to them because we've surveyed our clients who generally say, yes, these newsletters have been very beneficial to me and I'm making healthier food choices because of them. And then we also offer nutrition counseling by a registered dietitian who will come face-to-face with each of the clients that receive this nutrition counseling. Usually we give it to the people who we consider at high risk, to be at high risk nutritionally. And that's a one-on-one sit-down conversation with a registered dietitian where they can learn to make healthier eating choices too.
That's great information. The getting the education by qualified professional, letting them know different strategies that they can do to increase and to create a good diet, and then getting the one-on-one counseling. We just think that's a great thing that you offer. Now we're going to be running some information to show the public of how they get in touch with your programs. And do you mind talking a little bit about how someone would get a hold of your program?
Absolutely. For Pasco, you can call our main number, and it's Pasco County Elderly Nutrition, and we are part of county government, and we're a division in county government, and the main number is 834-3340.
Good deal. Peggy?
Well, my program is Neighborly Care Network. Almost blew that one. And we do all the services, and you can call us directly. It's the backdoor number, but it's the quickest number to get us. Is 727-573-0222. 0 for the operator. In our program, we do everything that you do. We also do outreach, which tells seniors of different funded programs that are out there of how they can access it. Things like to get their homes cleaned or their emergency alert responses. We also have transportation in our program. We're very lucky to have that, where seniors can get transportation to their doctor within a 10-mile radius and into senior dining and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Ladies, we so much appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your knowledge about the nutrition program. We learned a little bit about good nutrition and where they can go to get it. For the public, we're going to take a small break, and we hope you join us during the second segment, where we can give you some good information about volunteerism.
Elder abuse is always devastating, but it may not always be obvious. Isolation, coercion, and the withholding of medication are only a few of the more subtle forms of elder abuse that occur every day to thousands of our senior citizens. Please join me in the fight to end elder abuse. Our elders deserve better. Visit the website of the National Center on Elder Abuse. It's time to speak up.
Welcome back to Aging on the Suncoast. During the first segment of today's show, we talked about the importance of good nutrition for seniors. We also learned about what nutrition programs are available in both counties to individuals that are over the age of 60 and that are free. Because volunteers are a critical element of these programs, Sandra Nairn, the Director of Marketing for Neighborly Care Network, joins Diane Cunningham from the Pasco County Elderly Nutrition Program. These two ladies will help us understand the important role of volunteers. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jason.
Oh, Sandy, in an ever-changing world of funding and trying to do more with less, we try to have different opportunities where we can maximize the employees that we had. But what are other sources of manpower that we can definitely use in these nutrition programs that we just heard about?
Well, we literally could not do what we do without volunteers. I mean, it's such an important piece of our organization. We have probably about 800 volunteers that we utilize every day to try and to do what we do. So you can see what an impact that would be on us if we had to do that ourselves. What I'm finding, and anybody who wants to volunteer can certainly do it, what I'm finding right now is I'm getting calls from people who have just retired.
Okay.
They're 65, they're 66, the baby boomers are coming up, and they're calling me and saying, you know, I just retired and I need to do something. So I'm hoping that's going to bring some more volunteers in, because we have so many that are, you know, coming up retiring right now. So I'm hoping that's going to bring in more volunteers, but we literally could not do this without them.
Oh, it's so critical. Diane, anything to add from Pasco County?
Yeah, we have about 425 volunteers. We're a smaller county than Pinellas, and we couldn't absolutely not do what we can do with these volunteers. But as long as they have a smile on their face and they are willing to volunteer, we can use them in just virtually every aspect of our program, and we do use them.
So I think we can understand how critical they are, and I just heard from Sandy that there's a lot of people calling her that range from anywhere 60 and over and all that. So what does it take to be a volunteer in today's age?
Are you breathing? That's what we need, basically. If you're breathing and you can drive and you're willing to help, I mean, that's the willingness to do this. I always tell our volunteers, you're going to get more out of it than you ever give to it, because it's such a wonderful thing to do. So as long as for our Meals on Wheels, as long as you have a driver's license and insurance and can read a map fairly well, we'll get you there and we'll get you out there on the road doing this. You know, we started out delivering 100 meals out of the back of a van in 1966, because we actually were the very first federally funded Meals on Wheels program in the nation right here in Pinellas County.
That's right.
So we're very proud of that fact. But now we're delivering about 1,200 meals every day with a core of, like I said, about 800 volunteers.
That's
so,
amazing.
Yeah.
That's truly amazing. Dan?
Yeah. Well, in Pasco also, we recently were recognized by the National Association of Counties throughout the United States as being we got the top honor for our volunteer program, and we're very proud to say that. But studies have shown, what I just want to add, that it's just as much of a benefit to the person who volunteers as to the place that's receiving that person as a volunteer. There's a high correlation between someone's good health and the fact that they volunteer, because they are motivated by the difference they're making in other people's lives.
That's a pretty good nugget of information. Thanks for sharing that. I heard from Sandy that there's folks that are calling her up and wishing to volunteer, and I heard the 60 to 65 age range, some people that had just gotten ready to retire and are looking to not be bored and maybe give back a little bit from their previous. Are there other types of individuals that are volunteering out there? Do you see a lot of kids, or is there corporate folks out there?
We see a lot of corporate. We have what we call adopt a route, where we have a corporation adopt one of our routes. Mm-hmm. Raymond James does it for us. Publix does it for us. The Rays have adopted a route for us. And they have their employees adopt that route, and they take care of that route every week for us. 1 day a week is what we ask for, and so they'll take care of that route every week, and their employees go out and do it. It builds teamwork within the corporation, so it's a win-win for everybody. Mm-hmm. So. Now,
Diane, you and I were talking a little bit earlier about the different spectrum of individuals that do some volunteers and some other organizations that work with you on that nutrition program.
Well, in the last couple of years, a group of volunteers from the Genesis School came together, and they wanted to do something because they loved animals. So they knew there was a problem with elderly people who shared their home delivery meals with their pets, with their loved ones, because oftentimes the only loved one that's still living with the elderly person is a pet. Mm-hmm. So they got together and they started to do some fundraising and organized Cindy's Pets. And then we had another organization called Raffle Rescue join us to do this too, but to deliver pet food with, so the person would not only get their home delivered meals, but their pet would also get a meal.
And we just talked about how important it was just to make sure that that person at least has 1/3 of the registered dietary intake. And now that we find out with income being what it is sometimes that they can't afford all the pet food that they might need to feed their cat or their chicken or their dog or their fish, and they're sharing some of that food with them, which we commend them for doing. However, you just indicated a good resource out there that would help them out. All volunteer.
It's all volunteer group. Students and teachers and other friends and relatives all pitch in.
Let's go back to the nutrition programs too, because maybe folks out there are interested in what exactly they would do as a volunteer for either the home delivered meal programs or the congregate dining programs. You want to share?
For our senior dining, we can use, volunteers can come in and they can wrap silverware. They can help distribute the food to our clients. So there's things they can do there. Mm-hmm. Of course, home delivered meal obviously is going out and delivering the meals. But also in daycare, we can have entertainers. We would love to have entertainers come in and entertain our folks that, it's so good for them to hear the music and things like that. So we can use volunteers for that too.
Nice. Dan?
Well, my slogan is, if you've got the wheels, we got the meals. So if they can drive, absolutely, they can be a home delivery driver. But there are other types of volunteers as well. But I wanted to just share a little anecdote. I mean, we've had people as young as 10, 12 years old accompany their parents during the school breaks to go out and deliver meals. But we've also had, a 104-year-old woman who volunteered up to 2 weeks before she passed away.
Sitting there.
And she, all she did, and it made a big difference to her because she could do it. She had poor eyesight, she had poor mobility, but we gave her a job where she would just wrap the plasticware with a napkin and put a bow on it. Or her bows were so fancy, when it was placed on the table, the people eating the meal were so tickled to see that bow made by her, and she was so tickled herself that they liked it, that it's from a very young age to an old age, you can be a volunteer, and we'll tailor your interest, your talents with the volunteer job that you get.
That was such a neat story. Thanks for sharing. And I think with my time and working with you all in different capacities as well, And because a lot of the volunteers that I've seen out there generally come from the same cohort as the clientele that you all are serving out there, there's got to be a little bit of camaraderie that's going on there as well.
Absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Someone to talk to and maybe even build a relationship off of there.
Absolutely.
So many times that's the only person they see
Yes.
is who comes to their door to deliver that meal. So,
Yeah.
so if it's someone kind of their own age, they like that.
That's right.
Yes.
It's another valuable asset of these programs here. It's not only are they getting good nutrition from that, but they're also having some camaraderie and an extra set of eyes in the community to make sure that everything's
Yes.
going okay, especially for those that are homebound. Now, obviously, volunteers work just as hard as any employee out there. There's got to be some sort of impact on the program that maybe we can talk about too, maybe a financial one or a human one. Anyone want to share?
Well, I know, especially since, say, 2009, when the downturn in the economy, when the housing market was kind of crashing then, and we were losing money federally through the sequestration cuts, we lost about 50% of our staff. And these volunteers of ours, they just stepped up, and they even came to help lead the dining site where the people come to eat lunch for congregate dining. They filled roles within the organization, like doing clerical work or doing computer work, data entry, all kinds of things like that. So the impact financially on Pasco County government has been amazing. With the 400 or so volunteers that we have, if you paid them each $10 an hour, say a flat rate of $10 an hour, that saves the county about $500,000 a year. They don't have to pay somebody to do those jobs. So these volunteers virtually fill every type of job that previously might have been done by a paid employee.
And that sounds like that may work out well for you for in-kind or match to some of the funding that you
Yes,
get to drive
yes,
these
it does.
programs too?
Yeah, it directly does, yes.
Yeah. And the ones that we have with our agency, the volunteers that work with our many programs over there, they work just as hard as somebody that's bringing home a paycheck too. It's really amazing.
And I want to say it's so important that you thank each and every volunteer, and we try to do that. We have annual volunteer recognition luncheons, but we also go by and make it an extra step to say thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah. Sandy, any impact that you've experienced at Neighborly Care Network?
Definitely the same thing. I think the national average right now says $24 an hour is what it's worth to an organization, and I believe that. And for us, it's the same thing. If we had to pay somebody to go deliver these meals, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Literally would not be here because we couldn't afford that. So.
Yeah. Ladies, I am so happy that you came on the show today. As I told you about earlier, this is the first time I get to host that show, and what great information and guests I get to bring on the show. So there's going to be some information that the public will get a little bit later on how to contact your programs, and I just so much appreciate you coming on the show. So to the audience, we appreciate everybody tuning in to Aging on the Suncoast, and stay tuned next month where we're going to have a brand new show with new guests and great information, and we'll see you then.
Hi, I'm William Mapother. I play Ethan Rahm on the TV show Lost. Let me tell you about a truly lost population. Every single day, thousands of our elderly citizens are subjected to abuse, emotional, financial, physical. Worse, the majority of people who commit these acts are those closest to the victim. Please join me in the fight to end elder abuse. It's time to speak up. Our elders deserve better.